Welcome to Cory's Stories. Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Hello, my little friend. Just a quick minute before your meditation story comes on. Did you know that you could be in the Real Cat Club or in a Tucker and Leo club? If you want to hear exclusive stories that no one else gets to hear, that might have your name in, go to the Patreon link just below this video and sign up. Namaste, my little friend. Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Try and get as comfortable as you can in your bed. Take a nice big deep breath and relax your body. See if you can imagine sinking into your big, soft, comfortable bed. The more and more you let your body be still and quiet, and relax as you listen to the story. This story sounds a little bit like a peculiar story of sorts. A peculiar story because it's about bubble tea. Bubble tea? How can a story be about bubble tea? I know, right? Very strange. But there's so much that goes on inside of a glass of bubble tea. Close down your eyes so that you can use your inner sight and visualize the world of a glass of bubble tea. It's kind of squishy in here, one of the bubbles say. You know, one of the soy bubbles. They're all squished together at the top of the glass. They're floating around in a creamy matcha tea that's sweetened with honey. The cream is made with half and half, and it's rich and very silky and luxurious. This bubble tea is no ordinary bubble tea. It's got a very fancy glass container. It's not plastic or polystyrene. It's glass, and it's tall and ribbed, and it's icy, very, very frosty. This bubble tea is served in a very fancy restaurant, so all of the bubbles bobbing around in the matcha bubble tea think that they are slightly better than any other bubble tea available in the world. After all, this is a 5-star restaurant, and therefore they must be better, because they have a fancy glass. They're not bubbling and bobbing around in some common plastic cup. Oh, no, 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 no. This is fancy bubble tea. Only for the elite people in the world. Only for those people that can afford to buy this bubble tea. So these bubbles inside of this bubble tea, even though they're made in the same factory as every other possible bubble out there that's made for bubble tea, that doesn't count. Because where they've ended up means that they're better than all the other bubble teas. But are they really? They're all arguing inside of the fancy, frosty glass Stop pushing on me! I said get over there! Will you leave me alone? Have you ever heard of personal space? They're all talking over each other, banging into each other, fighting for their own special place, fighting to be at the top so that they get seen in their elite restaurant. It's very cutthroat being a fancy bubble tea. You wouldn't believe it, the stress of it. And somehow, in some crazy strange way, they'd managed to separate themselves inside of that frosty tall glass. Like some of the bubbles, the ones on top were better than the ones below. The ones below were fighting to get to the top, were pushing each other, trying to get through to the light, to be seen at the top, floating at the most exquisite restaurant that was ever made. But they weren't floating, the ones below. They were disguised in the shadows, pushed down, not seen. They were just a mass of bubbles. They weren't individualized like the ones on top. The ones on top had the lights in the restaurant shining down on them. The ones on top felt as if they were more famous, in some strange, peculiar way. The ones below just wanted to be the ones on top. And the ones below, because there has to be a middle before there's a bottom. Well, the bottom ones were just even worse. They might as well have been in a plastic cup. It was all shady and dark at the bottom, and everyone trampled on top of your head, pushing and climbing to get higher and higher and higher. There wasn't any friendship in this fancy, elite, uptown bubble tea. No. They all just wanted to be top bubble, the most shiny, most silky, noticeable bubble on top of the tea. Maybe if they'd have all got along, if they'd have all treated each other with kindness and compassion and shared the space in that fancy glass of theirs, at least some of the bubbles maybe would have enjoyed their reality. But none of the bubbles enjoyed it. They were in the most fancy, most elite, most posh restaurant, the most pristine glass in the world. And they still weren't happy. All of the bubbles inside of that bubble tea had something to complain about. The most bottomest bubbles were just the bottom bubbles. They had so much to complain about. The ones in the middle that were fighting to get to the top were complaining about being in the middle. They weren't taking a moment to be grateful for being in the middle and not on the bottom. No. They didn't have time to be grateful, to be happy, to enjoy the middle. Oh no, they were too busy fighting to be on the top. Their whole existence was about pushing and fighting and stepping over any other bubble to get to the top. And then the ones that were already at the top were so fearful that they would get pulled down into the middle or the bottom that they were constantly nervous, constantly defensive, constantly on the attack. They didn't have time to relax and enjoy and have gratitude. No. They were too busy cutthroating each other at the top. It was the most unhappy bubble tea in the entire world, and yet it should have been the happiest. You would think it would be the happiest because it had everything that we're told is what makes you happy. The money, the exclusiveness, the fanciness. It was so posh. I mean, how could you not be happy being a posh bubble tea? Everything that we're told brings us happiness. They had. But yet, not one single bubble in that fancy, frosty glass was happy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, in a plastic glass, on a street vendor, a man with a jolly big belly and a big cheesy smile was serving bubble tea all day long to very happy customers. His bubble tea was well known all around for being quite cheap, very tasty, and absolutely delicious. It came with smiles and happiness, and there was always a feeling of love inside of his bubble tea. It felt like love when you drank it, because he loved making it. And his love and his energy and his happiness and his kindness all poured into what he did with his tea. He sang to his tea, and the bubbles in the tea absolutely loved him. They all floated around and joined in with the song and just danced and played with each other all the time. It was such a nice, vibrational energy to be in. It was a nice environment. There was no pushing or calling names or nasty sneering words or fighting to get to the top. They didn't do that in this bubble tea. No, because they all took turns. They all swam around in there, and some ended up on the top sometimes, some ended up on the middle sometimes, some ended up down there on the bottom sometimes, but they would roll around and switch and take turns and be in different places inside of the plastic, cheap bubble tea container. And the songs from the man that made them every day made them so happy and content. They didn't care where they were in the tea. Every single aspect of that teacup was happy. There was no segregation, no separation, no eliteness, no fighting. They just all seemed to get along. They were all in it together, and they were all very happy with their product. They were proud to be their bubble tea. They didn't mind the plastic glass. They didn't mind one little bit. And people that bought the plastic glasses recycled the plastic glasses. So what goes around comes around. They kind of all took turns to take care of each other. It was a harmony bubble tea. It worked very, very different from the tea across town that you would think would be a nicer tea. But no, it wasn't. I told you it was a peculiar tale. You would never think there was that much going on inside of a bubble tea, would you? But there is, you know. Especially if you close your eyes and you connect. The next time you drink a cup of bubble tea, you have a listen. Notice if it's singing nice happy songs or if they're all fighting to get to the top. You'll have to let me know what you discover. In the meantime, do you think you understood the moral of the story? Even though it was about strange bubble tea? Was it really about bubble tea? Or was it about us? People? What do you think? Now, make sure that you're all comfortable and snug in your bed. Maybe turn over onto your side, pull up your knees, give them a hug, lay in a nice, comfortable position. Take the time to slow down your breathing so that you can relax even more. Maybe imagine that you're one of the bubbles in a nice bubble tea. You're surrounded by friends and family that love you and take care of you. And you're just as kind to them. Maybe you're surrounded by friends that take turns and share and look out for each other. Encourage each other when you need help. Support each other when you're doing well. Imagine that you're in the bestest cup of bubble tea, bobbing around in there all relaxed and happy and very, very chilled, because life is good and you've got lots of good people around you. Lots of good bubbles to hang out with and have the bestest time. The end.